Match 52 of the Big Bash, the Sydney Sixers and the Hobart Hurricanes. Let's pick our fantasy team on my 11 Circle Fantasy Pick on ESPN Cricinfo. I'm Rana Kapoor, and all set to join me from Australia is Andrew McGlashan. Right, let's go to our pro tip for this one. And the Hobart Hurricanes have been the best batting side against spin in this year's Big Bash, averaging just under 29. So it is safe to avoid spinners from the Sixers for this game. That's a pretty rigid stat rule. Nasha, what do you make of that?
I wouldn't necessarily go with that, partly because you've got Steve O'Keefe, who is in the Sixers side, a very canny operator still. I know he went for a few runs in his last match, but he's a very canny operator, and you always back him to get the better of a contest at some point in a game. So, I mean, understandably, the Hobart Hurricanes have a very strong batting lineup there, so you may want to steer clear of that. But I wouldn't be overly afraid of putting Steve O'Keefe in the side if you wanted to.
All right, now he's a player who's featured regularly when the Sixers have played, Steve O'Keefe. Now, is he going to be part of this 11? Let's find out. For that, on player availability, Sean Abbott's availability for the Sixers is in doubt as of now. You can always check in closer to the toss for updated team news from either side. On the My 11 Circle Fantasy app, 100 credits for every user to build their fantasy team, 4 categories of players to choose from: batsmen, bowlers, wicketkeepers, and all-rounders. You can pick a maximum of 7 players from one team in any given contest. Every player's individual credit value is listed on the app, and we'll give you those 4 substitute options as always towards the end of this video. Captain choice for this one, Josh Philippe, 441 runs in 12 games, impressive strike rate of 150. He's the second highest run scorer in this edition of the tournament, and he's been phenomenal against spin. 143 runs at an average of nearly 48, striking in the 190s. Vice captain option is Matthew Wade, even though he's missed a lot of the season as he was part of the Australian national side. He's been a sensational opener for the Hurricanes in the past. 1,068 runs at an average of over 42 and a strike rate in excess of 155. Just a couple of BBL games back, he scored a sensational 130 not out of 61 balls against the strikers. So Josh Philippe is captain, Matthew Wade is vice captain. They give you double and 1.5 times the points respectively. Moving on to the rest of our topics, Ben McDermott is there. He's enjoying a dream Big Bash edition so far, among the top run scorers, nearly 400 runs at an average of over 44, and gets you those extra points with the wicket-keeping gloves as well. Ben Dwarshuis is there. He missed a handful of games for the Sixers this season, but he is the joint leading wicket taker for his side. 14 strikes in just 9 games, average of 18.5. And Daniel Christian, the 37-year-old veteran, has been a revelation for the Sixers, getting you points with bat and with ball. And he is against the Hurricanes. He scored 251 runs at an average of over 35 and a strike rate of nearly 160. So he enjoys playing against this opposition. So Josh Philippe is captain, Matthew Wade is vice captain, Ben McDermott, Ben Dwarshuis, and Dan Christian in our topics. Nasha, thoughts?
Yeah, certainly can't argue against those captaincy and vice captaincy names. The one you may want to consider purely because he's got a bit more form behind him is Ben McDermott to maybe be promoted to vice captaincy ahead of Matthew Wade. I mean, Matthew Wade's finding a lot of ways to get out at the moment. It means he's due, so he may go big in one of these last few games. So he's certainly not an absolute gamble to be named vice captain, but Ben McDermott's had a very consistent tournament. The other name you may want to consider for your top 5 picks there is Moses Enriquez, who's come back into the tournament now after missing a lot of games, being with Australia, got 50 in his first game back and looked in pretty good touch. So you may want to consider him as one of the options as well.
All right, let's move to some differential picks now. Darcy Short, he's been in this differential sort of category throughout the season for the Hobart Hurricanes. That's because he's found ways to contribute more with ball than with bat this season. He had a shocker of a start as per his highest standards in the Big Bash. But all of a sudden, Darcy Short is getting you some runs and some points with bat as well. 244 runs in 12 games, but a couple of 3-wicket hauls. So Darcy Short in our differential picks. Moses Enriquez, who recently had a wonderful limited over series against India, made his comeback in the Big Bash in the last game, scored a quick fire 56 of 35 and bowled pretty well in the T20Is as well. A good option to even consider in your captaincy choices when fit, gives you points with bat and ball, does Moses Enriquez. So Enriquez in short in our differential picks. Our full teams is Josh Philippe, Matthew Wade, Ben McDermott. So plenty of keeper options that you can consider in the captaincy positions too. Jordan Silk, Moses Enriquez, Dan Christian, Carlos Brathwaite, Darcy Short, Ben Dwarshuis, Nathan Ellis, and Sandeep Lamichhane wrap up our full 11. Now, Steve O'Keefe finds place on the substitutes bench. So too does James Vince, Scott Boland, and David Malan. If you look at some alternate scenarios, Jordan Silk could be replaced by anyone from that substitutes list. Sandeep Lamichhane, Scott Boland, if you prefer the pace of Scott Boland to the leg spin of Lamichhane. And there's Ben McDermott and Dan Christian in those captaincy positions that Nasher's already pointed out. Any other swaps, any other suggestions that you'd like to make, Nasher? What about Steve O'Keefe in that 11 after looking at the whole team?
Yeah, certainly. As I said before, Steve O'Keefe, he's not often going to let you down. I guess the name that sort of slipped down the pecking order a little bit, the world number one's T20 batsman there is in the extra names at the bottom there, yeah. David Malan. I mean, you could easily find a spot for him in your first 11, and I doubt he'd let you down. Obviously, there's a lot of form batsmen in these two teams playing. But yeah, it's surprising how he's dropped down perhaps our preferred list a little bit during this tournament. But no, you can't really argue with too many of those. It's a very strong group of names to pick from.
All right, Nasher, thank you very much as always for your time and your thoughts. Plenty more coming up as we approach the knockouts of the Big Bash on my 11th Circle Fantasy pick on ESPN Cricinfo, so do join us then.